Hey guys, sitting down here. This is gonna be my chapter review to One Piece 968 Odin's Return. I enjoyed this chapter. This was a really solid chapter. So what do we start with? It's the cover page. We see those Marines, though they look kind of thuggish. We see those Marines taking away Chiffon, and Gotti's the only one there, so he's gonna go and help out Chiffon in whatever way he can. Anyway, starting the chapter, what's the first thing we see? So I'm gonna try and skip as much of the dialogue as I can, so we can just get to like the key points. So Roger returns from Laugh Tale, and Shanks asks him something when he was a kid, and he starts tearing up afterwards. And I want to know what it was he asked, and what the response was. Was it something to do with what they found there? Was it something to do with you know with Roger and his life expectancy? Was it something to do with passing on the torch to Shanks himself? What was it that he said that got Shanks to tear up as a kid? We then go through this nice little bit where they kind of Oda shows the impact of the birth of the King of the Pirates, essentially causing this stir around the world. The Navy has to go into action and stuff like that, and we get that nice little introduction that we've always had to One Piece. I think it was, or maybe it was in the actual English dub version of One Piece when I first started watching it, which was, they always describe Gold Roger as the man who achieved wealth, fame, and power, and he had everything and all that stuff. And I was like, all right, that's a nice callback. Roger comments on the fact that it's Gold D and all that stuff, and Scopper makes mention of the fact that I can understand why the world government would want to hide your name. So here's suggesting that they found out we knew from last chapter, but here Scopper kind of cements that they know the history of D and what it means, who the people of D were, and what the will of D is, and how that transfers over to Roger, and what that means for the world government and the Navy or the Marines. And what that means for everyone at large. So we're then told that the world government refers to everything that Roger gained as the One Piece, and how there were pirates and Navy, Marines alike, who were all trying to take out Roger. The pirates, to gain what Roger had, the One Piece, his treasure. The Marines to make names for themselves, for peace, all that type of stuff. And you have Roger here thanking his crew, and his crew are doing like a very good rendition of Chopper. They're just like, oh, shut your mouth, man, you don't need to thank us, you rascal, and everyone's calling him a rascal. But I thought that was pretty cool. And we then go straight into Roger disbanding the Roger Pirates, saying that this basically we're done here, I'm going to be the first off the ship and stuff like that. We have a flashback within this flashback. This is like flashbackception, where we hear what the Sea Kings were saying, those ancient Sea Kings that are swimming around Fishman Island, what they were saying and what Odin and Roger heard. So they're talking about a birthing. So they're saying the birthing is at hand. Our sovereign will soon be born. That's fairly straightforward. We know that their sovereign is Poseidon, Poseidon being Shirahoshi. But then they make mention of and another in a distant sea. The whales are delighted and in anticipation of the day the two sovereigns shall meet again. So there's two sovereigns, and I was like, another in a distant sea, and we're not given a time frame of this one. So you're thinking, if Shirahoshi is one, Luffy has to be the other, right? In terms of, in a distant sea, Luffy's in a distant sea. There's nobody else, especially when you look at the implications of the rest of the chapter, and they're talking about Joy Boy and stuff like that. Maybe this is all implicating, like, Joy Boy had a promise with the Mermaid Princess, right, or something like that, many years ago, 800 years ago, in the Void Century, or was the Void Century during those 800 years? But Joy Boy had a promise, and he wasn't able to fulfill it. And on the poneglyphs, I think one of them was at Fishman Island. There's his apology to the Mermaid Princess, saying, I apologize for not being able to fulfill this. And I think we're told here as well that someone will go and fulfill Joy Boy's promise to a Mermaid Princess, which is Shirahoshi, and the only one really capable, or really in this story with the capacity to do something like that, it's got to be Luffy, right? So the Sea Kings are talking about, we've been waiting for so long, it's almost here. Surely all will go well this time. So last time apparently didn't go so well. Maybe that's part of the ancient history of, Joy Boy, the original Mermaid Princess. What happened? What stopped him from fulfilling his promise? And it must have been something tragic. I can't wait to hear that. And Roger's hearing, just 10 until the birth, another 15 to grow, once again referring to Shirahoshi. So I'm not sure how much older Luffy is over Shirahoshi. He must be like 4 years older than her. Around about I think 3-4 years older than her, and then Ace is like a couple, maybe 3 years older than Luffy. So that's about 7-ish years in between. But actually, so how would Ace have been born then? If it was 10 years till the birth, I'm not sure about that one, but we'll have to get back to that. But another point I'd like to make is that it says here the whales are delighted in anticipation. Why would the whales be delighted at the meeting of the two sovereigns? Now, there has been an ancient theory going around, so ancient that I've seen specks of it, but I've never read the entire theory. I've never just been linked to it. But there was a theory going around that somehow, some way, the Red Line would be destroyed. Its debris falling through the ocean would be what destroys Fishman Island, which is why Luffy was prophesized by what's her name? Oh my god, I've forgotten her name. The shark lady. It's just here, her name, Charlie. Why he was prophesized by Charlie to destroy Fishman Island. It's going to be probably because he destroys the Red Line somehow, some way. And the reason why the whales would be delighted is because they can now pass through what was the Red Line into the next sea, and that would fulfill Sanji's dream of there being an all blue, because there isn't a dividing line essentially of land mass in between all the seas. So there would be an all blue where all fish would be able to, or fish or mammals would be able to swim in between all the seas. My only question here is, surely if you're stuck on one side of the Red Line and you want to get to the other as a whale, you just actually no, because it crosses the whole. Okay, so you can only stay on one half of the planet. Apparently they can't swim beneath it. That's how deep it is. So yeah, they're still stuck. They can't swim around because it doesn't work like that. So yeah, maybe that is part of it. Maybe the Red Line is going to be destroyed. So we go back to Roger asking Charlie, when's the Mermaid Princess going to be born? And I loved this, the part where Roger's like, I'm certain that the voice was speaking the truth. Someone will be born to eventually surpass us. So that's referring to the second of the sovereigns. This person who's going to be born to do what Roger and his crew couldn't do because they were just too early. They arrived at Laugh Tale and they were too early. They found out about the Void Century, about all the history of the people of D, the world government. They found out about all of that too soon. They didn't have a mermaid princess in order to be able to fulfill that. That's 10 years too early. So I loved how this kind of builds up that, there's more to this story than just Luffy and his crew like trying to essentially find, the One Piece is part of it, but more about One Piece is less of a treasure and more of, the history, what became of the people of D, how the world government was formed, and all the dense world building that Oda has, I think already has in mind. That's what we're trying to learn. That's essentially what the treasure is for me and for obviously Roger and his crew here. Anyway, they're partying it up. Roger's the first to leave the ship and leave the crew. He asks Odin whether he should ask Whitebeard to release Izo back to Wano, but Odin's like, nah, he's gonna be the guy to take care of White Kichi or Whitebeard for him. So we have Roger's departing. He says something to Rayleigh, which, Rayleigh being his best friend, his oldest confidant, he seems to be very distressed about him leaving. The rest of the ship, like, I loved Odin's narration of this, because he's like, this was a man's farewell. We were utterly stoic. Not a tear was shed. And you just see all of them crying. So this is his narration, kind of making it seem cool, kind of making it seem epic, with the whole idea of the crew of the King of the Pirates would never ever cry. And I was like, this is so cool. You see all of them crying. Odin, Scopper, you see Crocus, Rayleigh, everyone is crying. And you see actually that Roger was given a bag full of medicine from Crocus just to keep him alive, I think, because it does say his disease was in its final stages. But I really loved how cool it was that, they're crying their eyes out, but on top of it you have this kind of, the crew of the King of the Pirates would never cry, just by Odin. I love that. I don't know, there's something about it which really hit me straight in the feels, and I thought that's pretty cool. So then we go back to Wano, and Odin's whole thing now is, until this point there was a purpose to this country being closed, but now we can't have that anymore. We must open its borders, we must open its ports before the day that Joy Boy appears. So for some reason, he wanted to make Wano an open country, so that when this person that would fulfill Joy Boy's promise, who he refers to as Joy Boy, so I think Luffy would be the new Joy Boy. When this new Joy Boy appears, Wano is open to them, whether that be to show them the poneglyphs, whether that be to educate them on how to read the poneglyphs or something like that, or to go with them to read the poneglyphs, to show them where the road poneglyph is on Zou and all that type of stuff. There's a whole bunch of shit that Oden could show someone who appears, and especially if he's aware of the fact that it could be within the next decade. Oden here probably thinks he's going to live for the next decade at least, so he's ready, I think, to have his country open to them, to show the next generation of Joy Boy where to go, what to do, or at least give him a hint. So there's many tears as Oden leaves as well, and then we have Toki, who with her kids sees Oden for the first time in like a year or something, or at least half a year. I think it might be more around half a year to a year. So Momonosuke, Hiyori, Toki, they're all happy to see Oden and all that good stuff. But what I think Oden missed out on, and what I caught on to straight away, was Toki is dressed in, well, she has a patchwork cape, which is not the type of cape that you would expect to see, you know, the daimyo's wife. I'm not sure what you refer to the daimyo's wife as, of Kuri. You know, he's the daimyo of Kuri. You would not expect his wife to be wearing a patchwork cape, and her kids, you see Hiyori here, a very cute little bundle. She's dressed in this patchwork like onesie, and I was like, ooh, something's already not right. And then the next panel, you see these two factories in the background, and I was like, okay, something's going down, because Oden's still very unaware of what's happened, but his boys are about to drop him some knowledge, especially when they come up to him. They're like, "Welcome back, scoundrel." I was like, this is really funny. So the people of Kuri are all happy to see Oden. He's like, why are they happy to see me? It's because his wife has been doing bits for Kuri, and she's been telling the people of Oden's adventures, of the tales of Oden, of his courage, his bravery. So, you know, her kids, and now Oden have become beloved figures in Kuri, and no one has anything against Oden for leaving or anything like that. In fact, they love him for the things that he's done abroad. We find out then about, this is where Oden starts to pick up, there's more of a scent of things aren't going so well in this country. He asks about Denjiro, and he asks about Ashura Doji, and he's like, I haven't seen them, didn't see them a year ago when I got to Wano. Oh, so it has been a year. And this is when Neko Mamushi says Ashura is leading the Yakuza and the bandits in Kuri to make sure that they don't go wild, and Denjiro's been wandering all over Wano, borrowing and paying back money. And I'm not sure what that means, like borrowing money, paying back money. What's that got to, like, what's that mean? Is he laundering, or is he borrowing money in order to help people and then paying back that money? I'm not sure what that specifically means. It's a very vague sentence for me. But Oden sniffs it out here. He's like, wait a sec, Ashura Doji is out there holding back Yakuza, essentially holding back brigands, and we have Denjiro borrowing money. These aren't the signs of what I thought Wano would be like. Wano should be healthier than this. What's gone on in the time that I've been away? So this is where his samurai kneel down in front of him in his home, in his castle. They're just like, alright, we're going to drop some truth on you. Sit down and listen. So they tell him of how they did their best to manage Kuri, and then they inform him of his father's death. Oden regrets not having been there, but Kinemon is like, the real problem is the shogun's successor, who was named to be Orochi, Kurozumi Orochi. This is where Oden, like, he's just narrating this. There's no dialogue, but he's like, the more I heard, the more I was confused. Why the frick was Orochi put into shogunate instead of myself, or instead of somebody else? And he understands that Kurozumi Orochi is the proxy for him as shogun, but he's also very aware of who the Kurozumi clan are. He's also very aware of the fact that Orochi was never like a brother to him, and he only ever lent him money in consideration for Yasu. So it's the same way that Yasu would lend Oden money. Oden would lend Orochi money just because he knew that he was someone to Yasu. So it's that very, very polite and honorable bond. But he mentions here Orochi never returned a single coin of it. So Oden is already sniffing out. He's like, oh, this Orochi guy, there's something shady going on here, big time. So then Kinemon makes mention of the fact that there are these new factories in each region full of supervisors who manage labor within. They're creating weaponry, but the people inside are living on wages too cheap. Well, they're barely living on wages because they're too cheap to live on. And Odin's surprised. He's like, yo, how is the country at the knees of someone like Orochi? How have we all collapsed and bent down at the feet of someone like Orochi? What the hell's going on? So Raizo here makes mention of Kaido. He's like, Orochi by himself he's a sweet and sour chicken ass, but Kaido is a monster, and that's what's made us all bend the knee. We've seen this Kaido. We've actually battled this Kaido. Or at least they battled his forces and they were unsuccessful. So they realize here that, well, Odin realizes here that it's not Orochi, it's Kaido. The one behind Orochi is the one that's enabling him to do all this shit that he wants to do. So Kinemon starts to make mention here of something that happened. They take the kids out of the room first, and once that's done, they explain to Odin what happened about a year and a half ago, at a weapons factory. So there's a man who refused to work, and he and his family were executed. And Odin here is like, the fuck? And we're told here that Kinemon, his samurai, the people of Kuri, or maybe even just samurai at large, had enough of this. This was the last of Orochi's barbarity and brutality that they were willing to accept. So they went in their anger and they took up swords and marched on the flower capital. However, in the meantime, Kaido's followers circled round and snuck into Kuri. And I'm a bit confused here as to why we see oh my god, Kiku Nojo. He's surprised by this. He's just like, and I'm just like, wait a sec, well, you were here, right? So why are you surprised? So I'm looking at Kiku like, you should know this. Or maybe it's just the retelling of the story is like shocking to him. I don't know. But Kinemon then says, Kaido's forces infiltrated the castle. They threatened the life of Momonosuke, the heir to the Kozuki clan. So we were forced to be driven back by the enemies were driven back by Kawamatsu and Dogstorm. Oh my god, I said Dogstorm. Oh god. Inuarashi, who had been standing guard at the castle. And even though those two were standing guard, I mean, like there must have been tons of people in this force. But it was Toki who actually protected her kids, protected Momonosuke from the arrows which were aimed at Momonosuke when they first came out. And one such arrow went through her leg, and you see a scar. It's a pretty gruesome wound, but she seems to have healed from it completely. Obviously, Odin is not very happy by this. You see Kinemon, he says how ashamed he is, how he has no excuse. Odin sees the wound, he goes ape shit, and he's like, Toki, she's trying to stop him. He's like, yo, you ain't know about my past yet. I'm gonna show you. So he picks up both of his swords. He jumps out the top level of his castle, and he just absolutely blitzes straight towards the flower capital, where he knows Orochi is going to be in the castle. So and while this is going on, he's thinking in his head, he's like, a fool has taken control of Wano, a weak, cowardly fool who's using the strength of a fearsome pirate, taking advantage of the closed off nature of the country, so nobody can come in and help people like, well, actually Whitebeard would be able to go in if he really wanted to. The Roger Pirates would be able to go in and really, if they really wanted to, but nobody knows about anything that's going on because of the closed off nature. And he's like, what our once peaceful and beautiful land has been turned into a hellscape. So he then basically speed blitzes. He straight barrages this castle. He absolutely demolishes all the samurai standing guard outside. You see him walk in. His robes are slightly torn. There seems to be blood all over him. He's huffing and puffing. I mean, he did just run freaking across Wano. And he sees Orochi there with his maidens. He's eating food. Orochi's grown in size. He's got a crown on, still looking like a jackass. And Odin just straight walks towards him with swords in hand. And he's like, it's such a good panel. He's just looking over at Odin. I mean, looking over at Orochi. Orochi's like, oh wait, you really think Kaido would like it if you attacked me? We should think about what will happen to this country. And Odin's like, only after I've cut you in two. So I was like, yeah, cut him. But we know it's not gonna go. It's not gonna go well for Odin. Something's gonna happen where it's gonna be like, well, no harm, or I think no lasting harm is going to come to Orochi. So maybe it's going to be something to do with the more Hydra nature of the fruit that Orochi has. Sorry. So we know he has the Yamato no Orochi, the 8-headed. Oh my God, is it 8-headed? I think it was 8-headed. Let me see that. Yamato no Orochi. It was either 8 or 8-headed dragon beastie thing. So it could be very, very well the case that, you know, Odin slices off one head only for another to come out. But I really doubt there's going to be anything that Orochi's going to do to Odin to be able to hold him back, to be able to push him back, even to instill any hint of hesitation in Odin. Kaido, however, may be able to jump in on this and help out. And I think that's what's going to happen. Kaido or one of his men, or maybe even Kaido and all of his men, will group up together on Odin. But what we know for sure is that Odin doesn't ever go somewhere and his, like, at least one of his men isn't following him. This has happened for the longest of time. You know, since Kinemon and Denjiro first joined him, they've always been following him. So even though he commanded his samurai to protect his wife, protect his heir, protect his heirs, and protect his family and all that good stuff, I'm assuming at least Kinemon and Kanjuro, maybe even Kiku, or maybe at least Kinemon has to pop up alongside Odin, because Odin can't be expected just one man all of this. I mean, he probably could, but there has to be something that goes wrong here, and I want one of his boys to be there with him and say, "Aye, shit, we screwed. We should probably get out of this." I'm also very well aware of the fact that Odin, I think, I'm not sure if it was ever confirmed, but we know that Kaido has a scar running up his body, up his chest, I think it is, and we also know that our boy, actually it's not up his chest, it's right into his it's his right side, right next to the abdominals, going into like his right pec, and it's a cross-shaped scar, so it might be a double slash kind of thing. But we know that, or I feel like that should be something that Odin committed. Odin was the one that scarred Kaido. I'm not sure if that's ever been confirmed or not. I think it might have been, but I want to see how that happens, and if it happens, I want to see why Odin wasn't able to complete the action of killing Kaido. Because if you got a wound that big and that deep on Kaido, Kaido must have been in dire straits. So there must have been someone else who helped out Kaido. And then it comes to the issue of people have been saying that this Orochi that we see here is actually the old lady with Mr. Two's fruit, Bon Clay's fruit. I don't think that's the case because of the recognition that Orochi has, unless this witch is a very good actor. I don't think that that's the witch, but I do want to know where the witch has gone. Where's this changeling essentially? Where has it vanished to? Because we don't know if it's a he or a she, to be fair. We saw the witch form, but we don't know if that was just the form it had decided to take in order to trick Orochi into doing whatever he wanted to do. I'm still of the mindset that it was this changeling thing was a CP0 member, but we know that CP0 member has to have died somehow, whether it be in Wano, outside of Wano, on a ship going out of Wano, because Mr. 2 has that devil fruit, and I think that's pretty much it. I can't wait to see the next couple chapters in this. Are going to be very, very informative, especially in regards to Kaido. What happens to Odin? Is he executed like publicly, or is he just killed by his onesie somewhere? Is he actually dead? I assume fully that he's dead, and I'd be a little bit annoyed that he's actually alive. But I'm expecting there to be some sort of like public execution or something like that, but I'm not quite sure. And then I'd love to see like Kaido's forces and how they go towards the castle in Kuri and they burn it down. However, I don't think we're gonna get that, because that's part of this is all following kind of Odin's memories. So I'm thinking Odin even because weren't we following Odin's kind of log of all of this? I thought we were. I can't remember. I haven't reread it, but I thought we were following Odin's log of the story. Of him being part of Whitebeard's ship, of him when he was younger before that in Wano, and then being on Roger's ship, and then after that. So there must have been a time where he was able to write all of this part down. So he must have escaped, had a little bit of a rest somewhere, and then he was pursued, possibly by Kaido and company. But once again, I find it difficult to believe that Oden and his samurai were overtaken by Kaido and his crew. Because if Oden can take Kaido, which is a huge assumption, maybe Kaido's actually stronger than him at this point. I don't know that yet. Once again, find it hard to believe considering Oden was on the Roger Pirates. He was part of that crew, that legendary crew, that one that had it all, did it all, and they would have had to fought. They would have had to have fought everyone to get there, you know. So Oden must have been able to hold his own. So for someone like Kaido, unless there was something to him which Oden didn't see and was surprised by, or maybe one of his kids was taken hostage or something like that, and he just laid down his swords and was like, "Aight, take me out." But I can't see Oden losing unless there was some undercover, snide kind of sneaky tactics being employed. So let me know what you guys thought of this chapter. Let me know what you guys thought of this review. Like, comment, subscribe, all of that good stuff, and I'll see you guys in a bit.